What's up, everyone? Welcome to the FAA podcast. Working through a cold right now, so try to get through this as quickly as possible with just me today. Um, but great weekend of football. NFL week 2, college football week 3. Got a lot of games to go over here. So let's get to it. Had a fantastic comeback last night in fantasy. Also, we'll talk about that when I get to the Monday night football games. But let's start off on Friday. We had Air Force beating Utah State 39-21. Air Force really working their triple option ground game as they do. Quarterback Zach Larrier, he threw 4 times, 3 of 4, 75%, 84 yards, 10 carries, 56 yards, and a touchdown. For Utah State, Cooper Legas, I believe, is the starter. He just went 2 of 7, 28.6%, 46 yards a pick, and a fumble. And then McKay Hillstead also playing the majority of this game for the Aggies, 18 of 27, 66.7%, 202 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Air Force running back Owen Burke led the game in rushing, 15 carries, 110 yards. Also over 100 yards, Air Force fullback Emmanuel Michel, 28 carries, 106 yards, 3 touchdowns for him. John Lee Eldridge also scoring on the ground for the Falcons. Utah State wide receiver Micah Davis led the game in receiving, 4 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. And then other touchdowns scored by Utah State wide receivers Terrell Vaughn and Jalen Royals. Defensive player of the game for me, I'm going to go with the top guy there, Air Force linebacker Alec Mock. 11 tackles, 8 of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflection. Air Force -9, they covered over 45.5. And on Saturday, number 3, Florida State. This was the first of a couple scary situations for ranked teams this weekend. Florida State, though, getting the win at Boston College, 31-29 over the Eagles. Thomas Castellanos played excellently. A sophomore for BC. He should improve their team dramatically coming up through the next couple of seasons. 20 of 33 for Castellanos. 60.6%, 305 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But the bigger thing was his legs, 16 carries, 95 yards, a touchdown, was ultra effective running the ball and scrambling. FSU quarterback Jordan Travis, 15 of 24, 62.5%, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 carries, 38 yards. Boston College running back Ty Robichaux, the Western Kentucky transfer, led the game in rushing outside of Castellanos. 21 carries, 64 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 receptions for 17 yards. Florida State wide receiver Johnny Wilson led the game in receiving, 4 catches, 105 yards. And then he had other touchdowns by BC's wide receiver Lewis Bond and FSU's tight ends Jaheim Bell and Preston Daniel. Defensive player of the game, I got to go with the guy that scored on offense. Actually, there's 2 guys I'll go with, but my real defensive player of the game is Florida State linebacker DJ Lundy. 4 tackles, 2 solos, a half a sack, half a tackle for loss, and a pick on defense. And he also scored a 1-yard rushing touchdown on offense. And then, of course, Boston College defensive back Kari Johnson gets the nod as well. 8-yard fumble return for a touchdown. Boston College easily covers plus 25.5 over 48. Number 7, Penn State, 30-13 win over Illinois in Champaign. Drew Aller struggled, 16 of 33, 48.5%, 208 yards, 6 carries, 24 yards. But he got help a lot by the defense, turned the ball over 4 times, did the Illinois offense to that Penn State defense. Bo Pribula came in at the end, 0 for 3 passing, but 9 carries for 47 yards. He's been very effective in his couple of games playing so far. For Illinois, Luke Altmaier struggled worse than Aller did, 15 of 28, 53.6%, 163 yards, but 4 interceptions on the day. Again, and a part of a 5 turnover day, I believe it was, for the Illini. Quarterback John Paddock came in late. The Ball State transfer, 10 of 16, 62.5%, 129 yards, 1 touchdown. Illinois running back Reggie Love III led the game in rushing. 12 carries, 55 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 reception for 4 yards. And, of course, the dual threats, Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton for Penn State at running back, both scoring touchdowns in this one. And also their third running back, Trey Potts, the Minnesota transfer, just 1 carry for 2 yards, but he completed an 11-yard touchdown throw as well on a halfback pass. Illinois wide receiver Isaiah Williams led the game in receiving, 5 catches, 63 yards. And defensively, I'm going to go with Penn State defensive tackle Keziah Izzard there at the bottom. 2 tackles, both of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Penn State minus 14. They covered under 47.5. Number 14, LSU. The Tigers blowing out Mississippi State on the road, 41-14 in Starkville, Mississippi there. Jaden Daniels was just fantastic. 30 of 34, 88.2%, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, 15 carries, 64 yards, 2 rushing scores as well. Big day for Daniels and his receivers, which we'll see. Garrett Nussmeier came in then, completed 1 of 3, 33.3% for 6 yards. Will Rogers from Mississippi State, 11 of 28, 39.3%, 103 yards. Struggled a lot in this game. Did the whole Mississippi State offense. Mike Wright, the Vanderbilt transfer coming in, completed his only pass for a 4-yard touchdown throw. Mississippi State running back Jaquavius Marks led the game in rushing, 8 carries, 75 yards, 1 reception for -1 yard. And the big story of this game was LSU wide receiver Malik Neighbors. Just a massive game for him. 13 receptions, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. Every time Daniels needed to throw, it was pretty much going to number 8 Neighbors there. You also had Mississippi State wide receiver LaDeatrick Griffin run a touchdown in. And then defensively, I am going to go with the bottom guy there, LSU linebacker Harold Perkins Jr., 4 tackles, 2 solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflection. LSU minus 9.5 covered easily, over 54 by 1. The first upset of the weekend came in Columbia, Missouri. Missouri winning 30-27, upsetting number 15 Kansas State at home. Brady Cook was really good. 23 of 35, 65.7%, 356 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown as well for Cook. Will Howard was not bad either, even in the loss. 25 of 39, 64.1%, 270 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, 10 carries for 21 yards. Missouri running back Cody Schrader led the game in rushing, 10 carries, 58 yards, 1 reception for 6 yards. Big day for wide receiver Luther Burden Jr., Luther Burden III from Missouri. 7 receptions, 114 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also catching 2 scores on the day, Wildcats tight end Ben Sano, 5 catches, 78 yards, 2 scores. Defensive player of the game for me is going to go to the top guy there, Kansas State linebacker Daniel Green. 9 tackles, 7 of them solos, 1 sack, 2.5 tackles for loss. Missouri plus 3.5. They went outright over 48. Number 12, Utah, 31-7 over Weber State. Utah getting a reprieve, playing an FCS team, even though a good one, top 15 FCS squad in Weber State. The Utes, though, Nate Johnson got to start, play the entire game. Pretty good stat line, 13 of 21, 61.9%, 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 16 carries, 71 yards, and a rushing score as well. Weber State quarterback Kylan Weiser, 11 of 23, 47.8%, 66 yards, 1 pick, 1 fumble. Utah running back Jaquindon Jackson led the game in rushing, 9 carries, 69 yards, 1 reception, 6 yards. I should say outside of Nate Johnson there. Utah wide receiver Munir McLean led the game in receiving, 3 catches, 92 yards. And defensively, got to go with the guy that scored defensive touchdown, Utah linebacker Lander Barton. 5 tackles, half a tackle for loss, and a 23-yard pick six. Weber State plus 26.5. They covered under 44. Number 9, Notre Dame, 41-17, romping over Central Michigan. Sam Hartman was really solid again. 16-26, 61.5%. Sorry, y'all. 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing score as well. So 4 more touchdowns for Hartman. Headed into the big matchup this weekend at home against Ohio State. Jace Bauer for the Chippewas. 10 of 20, 50%, 137 yards, 13 carries, 16 yards, and a rushing score. My guy, Audric Estime for the Irish, had himself a massive game again. 20 carries, 176 yards, 1 touchdown. Notre Dame wide receiver Chris Tyree led the game in receiving, 2 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. And then defensively, I'm going to go with the top guy, Notre Dame linebacker Jack Kaiser. 10 tackles, 6 solos, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Central Michigan plus 34.5 covered over 51.5. Go Dogs, number 1, Georgia, 24-14 win over South Carolina. This is a tough one. South Carolina led 14-3 at halftime, but the Dogs scoring 28-1 unanswered in the second half to come back and win at home in Athens. Carson Beck, really solid in this game. 27 of 35, 77.1%, 269 yards, especially the adjustments in the second half were excellent by the coaching staff on the Georgia side. Spencer Rattler struggled. First half, he was lights out. Second half, not so much. 22 of 42. 52.4%, 256 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 8 carries for 35 yards. Big boost to this Dogs offense was running back Dejon Edwards coming back in this game. 20 carries, 118 yards, and a touchdown. Needed him big time in this one. South Carolina wide receiver Omega Blake led the game in receiving, 5 catches, 86 yards. And Georgia wide receiver Dylan Bell running another touchdown in. He got a big workload on the ground, 7 carries, 23 yards, a rushing score to go along with 1 catch for 16 yards. Defensive player of the game, I got to go with Georgia defensive back Kamari Lassiter. 4 tackles, 2 solos, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 2 pass deflections. South Carolina plus 27. They covered easily, under 54.5. Number 10, Alabama struggle bus in South Florida, 17-3 over USF. The Bulls putting up a fight in monsoon conditions there in South Florida. But the Tide did get the win. Byron Brown for USF, 14-28, 50%, 87 yards, 1 pick, 23 carries, 92 yards, and a fumble. Legs big all day for the Bulls quarterback. For Alabama, Tyler Buckner got the start. Was not good at all. 5 of 14, 35.7%, 34 yards, 2 carries, 11 yards, 3-0 at the delay break. Alabama tied it at 3 and then eventually scored 2 touchdowns in the second half. Ty Simpson came in for Buckner, played a lot. I wouldn't say a lot better, but better. 5 of 9, 55.6%, 73 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Really, it was the Tide running game that got going in the second half that ended up winning this game. And running back Roydell Williams was the guy to do that for Alabama. 17 carries, 129 yards, and a touchdown. Alabama tight end CJ Dupre, the Maryland transfer, he led the game in receiving, just 1 catch, but for 45 yards. And defensively, how about the massive day for USF defensive back Daquan Evans? It's weird to see a defensive back have these kind of stats, but 8 tackles, 4 solos, 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and a pass deflection. Dallas Turner for Alabama, also worth mentioning there. USF covers easily, plus 34, under 61, also quite easily. Number 16, Oregon State beating San Diego State 26-9. The Beavers quarterback DJ Uiagalelei was not very good in this game. 14 of 36, 46.7%, 284 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 3 carries for 17 yards and a touchdown. Aztecs quarterback Jalen Maiden, 20 of 32, 62.5%, 256 yards and a pick. Oregon State running back Damian Martinez, another solid game for him, over 115 carries, 102 yards, 1 reception for 4 yards. And how about Oregon State offensive lineman Joshua Gray? It was really a reception, but I guess it was a backwards pass, so the ESPN counted it as a rush anyways. So he had a 3-yard rushing touchdown in the first half there for the Beavers. Oregon State wide receiver Anthony Gold led the game in receiving, 3 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Danny, how about Bama being subpar this year? Too bad Jimmy's not here to defend his national championship pick. My defensive player of the game here is Oregon State linebacker Andrew Chatfield Jr., 4 tackles, all of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. San Diego State covers easily, plus 24.5, under 48.5. Number 19, Oklahoma crushing Tulsa, 66-17. Really small print. A lot of people scored touchdowns in this game, including Dylan Gabriel, the Sooners quarterback here, almost perfect, 28 of 31, 90.3%, 421 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a pick. I believe true freshman Jackson Arnold came in then. 2 of 4, 50%, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Tulsa quarterback Cardell Williams, 11 of 17, 64.7%, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Roman Fuller for Tulsa as well, 6 of 10, 60%, 21 yards, 3 picks. Not a good day for Fuller. Oklahoma running back Javonte Barnes led the game in rushing, 13 carries, 68 yards, a touchdown, 1 reception for 5 yards. Over 100 receiving, 3 Sooner receivers in this game. Oklahoma wide receiver Jaleel Farouk led the way, 6 catches, 126 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble. Sooners wide receiver Nick Anderson, also massive day, 3 catches, 120 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Pretty solid when all of your catches are for touchdowns. And then also over 100 Michigan transfer Andrew Anthony, 4 for 112 there. 2 touchdowns went to another Sooner receiver, Drake Stoops, on his 8-catch day. Defensively, I'm going to go with Oklahoma linebacker Danny Stutzman, 9 tackles, 4 solos, 2 tackles for loss, and a 30-yard pick 6. Oklahoma minus 28. They covered over 58.5 by themselves. Number 20, North Carolina, 31-13 win over Minnesota. Drake May was fantastic. Besides the turnovers, otherwise excellent on the day. 29 of 40, 72.5%, 414 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 13 carries for 34 yards. For the Gophers, Ethan Kaliak-Manis, not so good. 11 of 29, 37.9%, 133 yards, 1 pick, 5 carries for 26 yards. Minnesota running back Darius Taylor, the lone bright spot for the Gophers offense, 22 carries, 138 yards, a touchdown, and a 25-yard reception. UNC wide receiver Nate McCall, a massive day and load for him. 15 receptions, 165 yards, and a touchdown for the Georgia Tech transfer there. Defensively, I'm going to go with the bottom guy there. North Carolina defensive back Armani Chapman. 1 tackle. It was a solo, 3 pass deflections, and a pick. North Carolina -7 covers easily, under 51. Number 21, Duke. How about the Blue Devils? 3-0, 38-14 drubbing of Northwestern. Riley Leonard, my guy, love me some Riley Leonard, had another good day. 15 of 20, 75%, 219 yards, 13 carries, 97 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns for Leonard here. Northwestern playing 2 quarterbacks on the day. Ben Bryant, 17 of 34, 50%, 123 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And then Brendan Sullivan came in pretty decent, 5 of 6, 83.3%, 40 yards, 5 carries, 22 yards, and a rushing score. Duke running back Jordan Waters led the game in rushing outside of Leonard. 10 carries, 65 yards, 2 scores, and a 10-yard reception. Duke wide receiver Jalen Calhoun led the game in receiving over 100, 5 catches, 112 yards. And defensively, I'm going to go with the bottom guy there, Duke corner Miles Jones, 2 tackles, 1 solo, half a tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, and a pick. Duke -17 covered, over 48. Number 25, Iowa, the Hawkeyes crushing Western Michigan 41-10. Took a little bit, but the Hawkeyes offense finally got something going in this one. And it was with LaShawn Williams, who I'll talk about in a second. But quarterback play was few and far in between in this game. Trayson Bourget had a long touchdown throw that accounted for most of his yards. He went 5 of 16, 31.3%, 124 yards, 1 touchdown on the day, 8 carries, 32 yards, and a fumble. Iowa quarterback Cade McNamara, not very good, 9 of 19, 47.3%, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Deacon Hill came in for him late, 2 of 3, 66.7%, and 30 yards. I mentioned LaShawn Williams. He was the bell cow for Iowa in this one. 12 carries, 145 yards. That's 12.1 per carry, by the way. 2 receptions, 27 yards, and a touchdown. Western Michigan wide receiver Anthony Sambucci. He led the game in receiving. Caught 1 ball for a 64-yard touchdown. And defensively, I'm going to go with Western Michigan defensive lineman Isaiah Green. 3 tackles, all of them solos, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a pass deflection. Iowa, -28.5. They covered, over 43.5. Number 6, Ohio State, blowing out Western Kentucky at the Horseshoe, 63-10. Thought this one was going to be a little bit closer given how potent Western's offense is, but Ohio State's defense holding them down for most of the day. Kyle McCord, excellent for the first time this season, 19 of 23, 82.6%, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a fumble. Devin Brown came in then, 3 of 4, 75%, 40 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick for the Buckeyes. Austin Reed, whom I absolutely adore at Western Kentucky. Tough day for him, 21 of 37, 56.8%, 207 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. 7 carries for 14 yards. Bronson Barron, the Weber State transfer, came in for him at the end, 1 of 2 passing, 50%, -3 yards, and a pick. Ohio State running back Travion Henderson led the game in rushing, 13 carries, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 27-yard reception. And how about the day for the big boys getting involved? For the Buckeyes, wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., 5 catches, 126 yards, a touchdown to lead the game in receiving. His running mate, Emeka Egbuka, catching 2 scores on his 4 receptions as well. And defensively, I'm going to go with the 2 guys that scored defensive touchdowns in this game. Ohio State defensive tackle Tyleek Williams, 7 tackles, 2 solos, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a 0-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. And Ohio State corner Jermaine Matthews Jr., 1 tackle. It was a solo and a 58-yard pick 6. Ohio State -29.5. They covered easily, over 65. The Huskies are 3-0, number 8. Washington 41-7, crushing Michigan State in East Lansing, by the way. Michael Penix is Heisman bound right now. He has all 3 of his games over 400 passing yards currently. 27 of 35, 77.1%, 473 yards, 4 touchdowns. This Huskies offense is electric. For Michigan State, Noah Kim once again got the start. 12 of 31, 38.7%, 136 yards, 1 pick. Caton Hauser, 2 of 4, 50%, 72 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Spartans have a lot going on right now, and it's going to be tough to keep everything on the field. Washington running back Tybo Rogers led the game in rushing, 15 carries, 74 yards. And a couple 100-yarders for the Huskies receivers. Rome Odunze, of course, 8 for 180. Massive day for him. And his running mate, Jalen Polk, 5 catches, 118 yards, and a touchdown. And cannot forget their inside guy there, Washington tight end Jack Westover, 3 scores on 4 catches for 37 yards. And the former Michigan State Spartan wide receiver Jeremy Bernard had a rushing score, 2 carries, 2 yards, and a touchdown to go with 3 catches for 23 yards. Defensively, I'm going to go with Washington defensive end Zion Tupuola-Fatui. 3 tackles, all of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Washington, minus 14.5. They covered easily, under 57. Really small print in this one. 85 points here. Number 23, Washington, blowing out Northern Colorado at home here. Cam Ward, 20 of 26, 76.9%, 327 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 carries, 12 yards, and a rushing score as well. You had and the other 2 Washington State quarterbacks, John Mateer, pretty solid himself, 7 of 8, 87.5%, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 carries for 19 yards. And then Emmett Brown came in 2 of 4, 50%, 14 yards, and a pick. Northern Colorado's quarterback Jacob Sermon played pretty well, actually, 16 of 24, 66.7%, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Hank Gibbs came in for the Bears, 2 of 6, 33.3%, 37 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Northern Colorado running back David Afari led the game in rushing over 100, 17 carries, 116 yards, 1 interception for 4 yards. Receiving wise, Washington State wide receiver Lincoln Victor led the way, 6 catches, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. Whole host of other guys catching touchdowns in this game as well. And then defensively, I'm going to go with Washington State defensive end Ron Stone Jr., 4 tackles, 3 solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. Northern Colorado, plus 48. They covered over 55 easily. Like I said, 85 in that game. Number 24, UCLA, also a rout of NC Central, 59-7 in LA there. Dante Moore, the freshman, not a big workload for him, but pretty solid. 8 of 12, 66.7%, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Colin Schlee came in for him. Not very good. 1 of 4, 25%, 15 yards a pick, 3 carries, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns, though, is why he has a 100 QBR. For the Eagles, Walker Harris, 12 of 18, 66.7%, 114 yards and a fumble. Davius Richards came in then, 5 of 13, 38.5%, 28 yards, 1 pick, 2 carries, 11 yards. UCLA running back Anthony Adkins led the game in rushing, 10 carries, 96 yards, a touchdown. Big rushing day for the Bruins there. They had, I believe, over 300 yards. UCLA wide receiver Cam Brown led the game in receiving, 2 catches, 74 yards, a touchdown. Defensively, I'm going to go with the bottom guy there, UCLA defensive lineman Gabriel Murphy, 2 tackles, both solos, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass deflection. UCLA minus 35 covers easily, over 60.5. This was probably the upset of the weekend. Florida 29-16 over number 11 Tennessee in the Swamp. Tennessee still has not won at Florida since 2003. Joe Milton III struggled, as did the Vols' entire offense. 20 of 34, 58.5%, 58.8%, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Graham Mertz was solid despite not throwing the ball downfield at all. Um, 19 of 24, 79.2%, 166 yards, 1 touchdown, and a rushing touchdown as well. They got this game finished though with their running back Trevor Etienne, Travis Etienne's brother, 23 carries, 172 yards and a touchdown. That is 7.5 yards per carry, which is just ridiculous. Florida running back Montrell Johnson Jr. scoring twice on the day, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. Tennessee wide receiver Brew McCoy led the game in receiving, 5 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown. Defensively, let me go with the bottom guy there, Florida defensive lineman Tyreek Sapp, 1 tackle, 1 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a pass deflection. Florida +5 wins outright, under 57 by a couple. Low scoring game here on NFL Network. James Madison 16-14 over Troy. The Dukes are 3-0 though. Troy quarterback Gunnar Watson, 25 of 46, 54.3%, 332 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. JMU quarterback Jordan McLeod, the Arizona transfer, 18 of 26, 69.2%, 200 yards, and a touchdown. JMU running back Kalen Black led the game in rushing, 13 carries, 78 yards, 4 catches, 42 yards. Big all-purpose day for him, over 100 there. Troy wide receiver Chris Lewis led the game in receiving, 4 catches, 93 yards. Defensively, I'm going to go with the bottom guy there. Big day for JMU defensive lineman Mikhail Kamara. 3 tackles, all of them solos, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. JMU +2.5 wins outright, under 46.5 easily. Number 2, Michigan, 31-6 over Bowling Green. And again, I will say Michigan does not deserve to be number 2. They haven't scored over 40 points. They haven't really blown out these teams they're supposed to be blowing out in these first 3 games. So we'll see. We'll see when it comes to real competition. They play Penn State next weekend. But anyways, J.J. McCarthy, not a big day for him. 8 of 13, 61.5%, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. I mean, throwing 3 picks against Bowling Green, that's bad, y'all. Just saying. Anyways, for the Eagles, though, Bowling Green, quarterback Camden Orth, 8 of 11, 72.7%, 91 yards. Hayden Tomasic, 6 of 10, 60%, 33 yards, 2 picks, and a fumble. Michigan running back Blake Corum, over 100 in this one, 12 carries, 101 yards on 2 touchdowns. Michigan wide receiver Cornelius Johnson led the game in receiving, 3 catches, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Defensively, I'm going to go with the bottom guy there, Michigan defensive back Mike Sanderstill, 3 tackles, all of them solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. Bowling Green +40.5 covers easily, under 53.5. Number 17, Ole Miss blowing out Georgia Tech, 48-23. Haynes King for Georgia Tech had himself a day, though. 28 of 41, 68.3%, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, 14 carries, 42 yards, and a rushing score as well. Jackson Dart for the Rebels here. Pretty solid. 10 of 18, 55.6%, 251 yards, 1 touchdown, 14 carries, 136 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Georgia Tech running back Jamal Haynes led the game in rushing outside of Dart, who I mentioned had a massive rushing day there, 136, 2 scores. But Haynes, though, here, 19 carries, 72 yards, 3 receptions, 28 yards. Ole Miss wide receiver Jordan Watkins, he led the game in receiving over 100 for him. 4 catches, 119 yards, and a touchdown. And defensively, there wasn't a lot to go on, so I'm just going to go with the top guy there, Ole Miss safety Trey Washington, 10 tackles, 7 solos, 2 tackles for loss. Ole Miss minus 17, covered over 61.5. Shootout in Fayetteville. BYU gets it done, though, 38-31 over Arkansas. KJ Jefferson had some turnover struggles in this one, 2 on the day for him, 24 of 35, 68.6%, 247 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 13 carries, 21 yards, and a fumble. Keaton Slovis, the Pitt transfer, decent, but not extraordinary, 13 of 25, 52%, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns. Arkansas running back A.J. Green led the game in rushing 9 carries, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 7-yard reception as well. BYU running back L.J. Martin, 2 scores on the ground for him also. Arkansas wide receiver Andrew Armstrong led the game in receiving, just shy of 109 catches, 98 yards. And then a 2-touchdown day for BYU's wide receiver Parker Kingston, 3 catches, 46 yards, a receiving touchdown. Then he threw a 37-yard touchdown as well. And then also want to mention Arkansas wide receiver Isaiah Sategna, just 1 catch for 5 yards on offense, but an 88-yard punt return touchdown on the day for him as well. A lot of defensive stats in this game. I'm going to go with Arkansas defensive lineman Landon Jackson, though. 5 tackles, 4 solos, 1.5 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss. BYU plus 9 wins outright over 48 easily. 69 in that game. Number 4, Texas, struggling a little bit against Wyoming. 31-10, though. They did get the win. Big fourth quarter for them. Evans Svoboda for the Cowboys here, 17-28, 60.7%, 136 yards and a pick. Quinn Ewers for the Longhorns, 11 of 21, 52.4%, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a rushing score. So 3 touchdowns for him, but struggled most of the day passing the ball. It was not a struggle on the ground for either team, though. Texas running back Jonathan Brooks, massive day, 21 carries, 164 yards, 7.8 per carry there. And Wyoming was the same way. Harrison Whaley for them, 18 carries, 110 yards, and a touchdown, 6.1 per carry there. Wyoming wide receiver Wyatt Weiland led the game in receiving, 8 catches, 62 yards. And then defensively, 2 guys I should mention here on Texas. Defensive back Jaron Thompson, 3 tackles, 2 solos, 1 pass deflection, 27-yard pick 6. And then defensive lineman Byron Murphy, the second, 2 tackles on defense, and then he caught a 1-yard touchdown on offense. Wyoming plus 31 covers easily under 48.5. Number 13, Oregon crushing Hawaii 55-10. Bo Nix was pretty solid, to say the least. 21 of 27, 77.8%, 247 yards, and 3 touchdowns, 2 carries for 14 yards as well. Oregon also played quarterbacks Ty Thompson and Dalen Morris. Thompson, 4 of 6, 66.7%, 85 yards, a touchdown. Morris completed his only ball for 11 yards, and he had a 15-yard run as well. For Hawaii, quarterback Braden Shager struggled a lot in this game. It was the first time I've seen him struggle, even despite Hawaii's 1-3 record. The first 3 games he was really playing well, but not in this one. 27 of 43, 62.8%, 131 yards, 1 touchdown, and a pick. Oregon running back Noah Whittington led the game in rushing, 5 carries, 80 yards, a touchdown, 3 receptions for 23 yards. His running mate Jordan James having 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. Oregon wide receiver Troy Franklin led the game in receiving, 4 catches, 83 yards. 2 guys at the wide receiver spot having 2 scores for the Ducks, Tez Johnson and Trayshawn Holden. Defensively, there wasn't a lot going on. I'm going to go with Oregon defensive end Jordan Birch, though, for my defensive player of the game. 2 tackles, 1 solo, 1 tackle for loss. Oregon, minus 38.5. They covered under 67.5. Final FBS game here, number 18, Colorado, 43-35 over Colorado State in double overtime. Really annoying. All the hype and the Buffs just lay a dud. Yeah, it was annoying to watch. Having Colorado's side on this one. They got the win, but it was a struggle, and they are going to get killed by Oregon this weekend. I can tell you that. But for CSU, I was super impressed. Braden Fowler Nicolosi, 34 of 47, 72.3%, 367 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did have 3 picks, which let Colorado get in the game. But, it's a very admirable effort on the road at a top 25 school. For Colorado, quarterback Stur Sanders played like crap in the first half. Second half was a lot better, 38 of 47, 80.9%, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. Colorado running back Dylan Edwards led the game in rushing, 10 carries, 57 yards, 6 receptions for 17 yards. Massive night for CSU wide receiver Torrey Horton, 16 receptions, 133 yards, a touchdown, and threw a 30-yard touchdown as well. Also over 100 for the Rams wide receiver Lewis Brown, the 4th, 10 for 131 and a touchdown, and tight end Dallin Holker, 6 for 109, 2 touchdowns and a fumble. Colorado wide receiver Xavier Weaver just short there, 9 for 98 and a touchdown, and then 2 receiving touchdowns for tight end Michael Harrison, the true freshman for the Buffaloes. Defensively, I got to go with Dion's other son there, Colorado safety Shiloh Sanders, 4 tackles, 3 solos, and an 80-yard pick 6 to start the scoring. Colorado State plus 23 covered easily over 63. Also easily 78 in that game. FCS game of the week, number 15, Southern Illinois, 3-0 Salukis, 26-25 squeaker over number 13 SEMO. This one was on the road. It was a tough game, but the Salukis did edge the Redbirds out there. Nick Baker was fantastic, 37 of 51, 72.5%, 458 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, 4 carries, 14 yards. For SEMO, quarterback Paxton De Laurent, 26 of 46, 56.5%, 251 yards, 1 touchdown. SEMO running back Geno Hess, pretty solid day for him, even in a loss. 23 carries, 99 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble. 7 receptions for 51 yards. SIU wide receiver Vincent Davis III led the game in receiving, 8 for 126 yards, 1 touchdown, and a fumble. His wide receiving mate there, wide receiver Isaiah Hartrup, caught 2 scores, 7 for 94 for him. And then defensive player of the game has to go to SEMO's defensive back Eric Ivory Jr., 2 picks on the day for him off of Nick Baker. Moving on to the NFL here on Sunday, the first game, Bills blowing out the Raiders, 38-10 in Vegas, I believe. Or no, this was in Buffalo, I think. Josh Allen was just stellar, 31 of 37, 83.8%, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers in this one after the 4 turnover performance at the Jets in week 1. Jimmy Garoppolo for the Raiders, 16 of 24, 66.7%, 185 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. Big day for Bills running back James Cook, 17 carries, 123 yards, 4 receptions for 36 yards there. Bills wide receiver Gabe Davis led the game in receiving, 6 catches, 92 yards, a touchdown on 7 targets. And then defensive player of the game, I'm going to go with the top guy there. Raiders linebacker Robert Spillane, 14 tackles, 9 of them solos, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a QB hit. Bills minus 7.5 covered easily, over 47 by 1. Ravens 2-0, 27-24 over the 0-2 Bengals. I did not believe it was going to get to this point for Cincinnati. And we'll talk about the Joe Burrow situation in a second. But Lamar Jackson in this one, 24 of 33, 72.7%, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12 carries for 54 yards. Joe Burrow, better than last week, a lot better, but still not the greatest. 27 of 41, 65.9%, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Ravens running back Gus Edwards led the game in rushing, 10 carries, 62 yards, and a touchdown. Massive day for Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins, 8 catches, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns on 12 targets. And my defensive player of the game is the bottom guy there, Ravens linebacker Jadeveon Clowney. Big day, 4 tackles, 3 solos, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, 2 QB hits. Ravens plus 3.5. They win outright over 45. Low scoring game in Jacksonville this weekend. Chiefs 17-9 over the Jags. They get their first win of the season. Patrick Mahomes had to be good, and he was 29 of 41, 70.7%, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 7 carries for 30 yards. Trevor Lawrence struggled a little bit. 22 of 41, 53.7%, 216 yards, 5 carries, 26 yards, and a fumble. The Chris Jones effect was back with the Chiefs defense. They had good pass rush all day, pretty much limiting Lawrence's effect. Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco led the game in rushing, 12 carries, 70 yards, and 1 reception for 0 yards. Big bounce back day for Jags wide receiver Christian Kirk, 11 receptions, 110 yards on 14 targets. Also completed a pass from -1 yard. Travis Kelce returned in this game, and he's got in the end zone right away. 4 catches, 26 yards, a touchdown on 9 targets. And defensively, I got to go with the guy I talked about. Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones, massive day in his first game back. 2 tackles, 1 solo, 1.5 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, 2 QB hits. Chiefs minus 3.5 covered, under 50 easily. Titans 27-24 over the Chargers in overtime. Again, another team I did not see falling to 0-2 this year. They have scored a bunch of points and just cannot get the wins in clutch situations. 1-score losses first 2 games. Justin Herbert was really solid again. 27 of 41, 65.9%, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. No turnovers for him. Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill, a lot better than last week. 20 of 24, 83.3%, 246 yards, 1 touchdown. And a 12-yard rushing score as well. Titan running back Derrick Henry led the game in rushing, of course. 25 carries, 80 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 receptions for 15 yards. Big day for Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen, 8 catches, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns on 10 targets. Also, a big workload was Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams, 8 catches, 83 yards on 13 targets. Defensive player of the game, I'm going to go, I think, with Chargers. I'm going to go with the Chargers linebacker Joey Bosa. 4 tackles, 3 solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 2 QB hits. Big day for him, playing limited pass rush snaps. The Titans plus 2.5. They win outright over 45.5. Falcons 2-0 Falcons 25-24 over the Packers. Squeaking one out there. in Atlanta after being down big at one point. Desmond Ridder, though, 19 of 32, 59.4%, 237 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 10 carries, 39 yards, and a rushing score. Jordan Love was really good again, though. Not even close to as many yards as he had last week, but 3 touchdowns again, 14 to 25, 56%, 151 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 carries for 23 yards. Falcons running back Bijan Robinson, a massive day for his second game of his career. 19 carries, 124 yards, 4 catches, 48 yards on 5 targets. Falcons wide receiver Drake London led the game in receiving, 6 catches, 67 yards, a touchdown on 7 targets. Rookie wide receiver Jaden Reed had 2 scores on his 8-target day. And defensive player of the game, I got to go with the bottom guy there, Packers corner Rasul Douglas, 4 tackles, all of them solos, 2 pass selections, and a pick. Big shout out also goes to the Packers linebackers, 31 combined tackles for Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell, 17 for Walker, 14 for Campbell. Packers +3 covered, over 40.5. Seahawks 37-31 in overtime over Detroit, getting their first win of the season. Geno Smith, excellent day for him. 32 of 41, 78%, 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 carries for 20 yards. Also, excellent day. Lions quarterback Jared Goff, 28 of 35, 80%, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Lions running back David Montgomery led the game in rushing, 16 carries, 67 yards, a touchdown, a fumble, and a 7-yard reception. His counterparts, Seahawks running back Kenneth Walker III, 2 touchdowns on the ground for him. Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown over 100 on this one, 6 catches, 102 yards on 7 targets, and a fumble. 2 touchdowns by Lions wide receiver Josh Reynolds on 6 targets, and Seahawks wide receiver Tyler Lockett on his 10 targets. Defensive player of the game has to go to Seahawks corner Trey Brown, 4 tackles, all of them solos, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 2 pass deflections, 1 QB hit, 40-yard pick 6 for Mr. Brown there. Seahawks +4.5. They win outright, over 47 easily, 68 in that game. Colts picking up their first win of the season, 31-20 over the Texans. CJ Stroud for Houston, really solid day. Was throwing the ball a lot because they were down for most of this game. 30 of 47, 63.8%, 384 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a fumble. Anthony Richardson, shortened day for him as he got concussed early in this one. 6 of 10, 60%, 56 yards, 3 carries, 35 yards, and 2 rushing scores. Gardner Minshew was stellar like he was in the preseason. 19 of 23, 82.6%, 171 yards, and a touchdown. So we'll see if Richardson will get back on the field this week or not. Also, really solid day for him here was Colts running back Zach Moss, 18 carries, 88 yards, a touchdown, 4 catches for 19 yards. Happy with his fantasy performance there. Also, another guy I was very happy fantasy-wise, Texans wide receiver Nico Collins, 7 receptions, 146 yards, a touchdown on 9 targets. Their rookie, Tank Dell for the Texans, 10-target day for him, caught a touchdown on those 10. And then Colts wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., also big day for him, 12 targets as well. Defensive player of the game in this one, I'm going to go with Colts linebacker EJ Speed, 6 tackles, all of them solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a QB hit. The Colts +1 win outright over 40. How about the 2-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 27-17 over the Bears? Baker Mayfield is playing the best of his career right now. 26 of 34, 76.5%, 317 yards, 1 touchdown, 6 carries for 17 yards. Justin Fields, again, not good. 16 of 29, 55.2%, 211 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and a rushing score. I absolutely love watching Justin Fields struggle because it means I am right about him. Bucks running back Rachaad White led the game in rushing, 17 carries, 73 yards, a touchdown. Massive day for Bucks wide receiver Mike Evans, 6 catches, 171 yards, a touchdown on 8 targets. Bears wide receiver DJ Moore also over 106 for 104 on 7 targets. And defensively, 2 guys I want to mention here. Bucks linebacker Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, 4 tackles, all of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 3 QB hits. And then Bucks linebacker Shaquille Barrett, 2 tackles, both of them solos, 1 sack, 1 pass deflection, 1 QB hit, and a 4-yard pick six. Bucks covered -2.5 easily, over 41. Giants 31-28, massive comeback over the Cards. They were down 20-0 at halftime, 60-0 in their season, in the first 6 quarters of their season, which is just ridiculous. And they came back. Daniel Jones, he was excellent. 26 of 37, 70.3%, 321 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 9 carries for 59 yards, and a touchdown. Josh Dobbs has really played well for the Cardinals. I've been super shocked and surprised. He's very comfortable in this Petsing offense and looks good, just not enough to win right now for Arizona. But he's definitely playing it well enough. 21-31 for Dobbs, 67.7%, 228 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 carries, 41 yards, and a rushing score. 100-yard day for Cardinals running back James Conner, 23 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. 2-score day for Giants running back Saquon Barkley, unfortunately injured. We'll talk about that in a minute. But 1 rushing, 1 receiving for Saquon on the day. Giants rookie wide receiver Jalen Hyatt led the game in receiving, 2 catches, 89 yards on 2 targets. Big workload for Cardinals wide receiver Marquise Brown, caught 6 for 54 on his 10 targets. And defensively, I'm going to go with Cardinals linebacker Dennis Gardeck. I love me some Dennis Gardeck, and he had a big day. 4 tackles, all of them solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a QB hit. Cardinals +5 covered, over 39.5. 49ers, close one over the Rams, 30-23, and a lot of bettors being pissed at Sean McVay for kicking a field goal to end the game, pushing the spread, but whatever. Matthew Stafford, though, has played really solid for the Rams so far. 34 of 55, 61.8%, 307 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 4 carries for 17 yards. Brock Purdy for San Fran, 17-25, 68%, 206 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Niners running back Christian McCaffrey over 100 in this one, 20 carries, 116 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 receptions for 19 yards. Kyren Williams, the standout Rams running back, 2 scores for him, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. Big day. And also a big day, Rams rookie wide receiver Puka Nacua, 5th-round rookie out of BYU, just dominating right now. 15 catches, 147 yards, 20 targets in this one. Just astronomical numbers in his first 2 career games. Deebo Samuel, pretty good receiving day, but he also ran 1 into the end zone as well. Defensive player of the game, I think I am going to go with the bottom guy, actually. Niners defensive end Nick Bosa, 2 tackles, 1 solo, 1 tackle for loss, 3 hits on Stafford. Niners -7 pushed, like I said, over 45. Cowboys routing the Jets 30-10. Dak Prescott, ultra efficient, 31 of 38, 81.6%, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 carries per 14 yards. Zach Wilson struggled mightily, going back to the old Zach Wilson, I guess. 12 of 27, 44.4%, 170 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, 5 carries for 36 yards. Cowboys running back Tony Pollard led the game in rushing, 25 carries, 72 yards, 7 receptions, 37 yards on 8 targets. Big day for Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, 11 receptions, 143 yards on 13 targets for him. And then there's no other. Micah Parsons was the whole Cowboys defense in this game. 4 tackles, all of them solos, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflection, 4 QB hits, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. I think I can easily say that after 2 weeks, it's Parsons and Watt. Like those are the guys. Micah Parsons, JJ Watt, or TJ Watt. Those are the 2 defensive player of the year candidates. There's no one else even close right now. The Cowboys -8 covered easily, over 38.5. How about the Commanders? The 2-0 Washington Commanders, 35-33 over the Broncos. Not going well right now in Denver for Sean Payton's first season. Russell Wilson, a lot better than he has been, but just not enough. 18 of 32, 56.3%, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, 6 carries, 56 yards, and a fumble. And again, I've been super impressed by Sam Howell, man. 27 of 39, 69.2%, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 carries for 13 yards. Commanders running back Brian Robinson Jr. led the game in rushing, 18 carries, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions for 42 yards, leading my fantasy team. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough, but solid performance nonetheless. Broncos wide receiver Marvin Mims Jr., the 2nd-round pick out of Oklahoma there. 2 catches, 113 yards, a touchdown on 2 targets. You also had a big day for wide receiver Brandon Johnson, I believe an undrafted rookie for the Broncos. 2 catches, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns on 3 targets. He's the man that caught the Hail Mary that almost allowed Denver to tie this game up, just could not get the 2-point conversion, which, by the way, now that I'm on that subject, Russ, if he would have held the ball and looked left, I believe he had Jerry Jeudy coming open in the left corner of the end zone. Just did not see it in time and threw right instead and incomplete. Defensively, I mean, take your pick of who you want because there's a lot of guys that had really great games. I think, though, I am going to go with Commanders defensive tackle Daron Payne, 5 tackles, all of them solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflection, 3 QB hits. Commanders +4 win outright over 39 easily, 68 in that game. Sunday Night Football, Dolphins 2-0, baby. Hell yeah, go Dolphins. 24-17 over the 0-2 Patriots. Tua Tagovailoa was efficient again, 21 of 30, 70%, 249 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Patriots quarterback Mac Jones, again, he's been pretty impressive, even though they've lost both by 1 score here. 31 of 42, 73.8%, 231 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 5 carries for 25 yards. Dolphins running back Raheem Mostert, big night for him. 18 carries, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 6-yard reception to go along. Dolphins wide receiver Jalen Waddle, 4 catches, 86 yards on 6 targets. And defensive player of the game, I got to go with Van Ginkel, the man, AVG. Andrew Van Ginkel, man, 6 tackles, 2 solos, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass selection, 3 QB hits. Bradley Chubb for the Dolphins as well had a big night. Last thing I want to say about this game before I get to the spread, man, Ramondre Stevenson, I'm pissed at you, 4 yards short of my parlay that put me in the no betting coffin for all of eternity. So thank you, Mr. Stevenson, for putting me out of betting. Dolphins -2 covered easily, under 46. Monday night doubleheader. We had the first game here, Saints getting to 2-0, 20-17 over the Panthers. Derek Carr wasn't the greatest, but he got some help with his defense in the running game. 21-36, 58.3%, 228 yards and a pick. Taysom Hill also listed as a quarterback now, completed his only pass for 8 yards. Big rushing night, led the team and the game in rushing, 9 carries, 75 yards, 1 reception for -1 yard. Bryce Young, I was encouraged that they went down and scored late, as well as some of the other throws he made in this game. 22 of 33, 66.7%, 153 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 carries, 34 yards, a fumble. The fumble was concerning. He didn't really know that there was a guy behind him, I guess, or he thought he could outrun him and he didn't, and just lost the ball. But, encouraging signs from Bryce Young. Going to be a tough season, but nonetheless, I think it's going to be improvement from week to week for Bryce Young. Panthers running back Miles Sanders led the game in rushing outside of Taysom Hill there. 14 carries, 43 yards, 3 catches, 4 yards on 5 targets. Tony Jones Jr. Ran in 2 scores for the Saints. Saints wide receiver Chris Olave led the game in receiving, 6 catches, 86 yards on 11 targets. And defensively, I got to go with the top guy there. Panthers linebacker Frankie Louvu had himself a night. 9 tackles, 4 solos, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 2 QB hits. Saints -3 pushed under 39.5. How about the Steelers getting their first win of the season, 26-22 over the Browns? Deshaun Watson struggled a lot in this game, 22 of 40, 55%, 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 6 carries, 22 yards, 2 fumbles on the night. Kenny Pickett, again, struggled mightily, 15 of 30, 50%, 222 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. There were some open targets that he just straight up missed, and it's concerning. But hoping we can ride the defense until the offense gets fixed. So we'll see. Browns running back Jerome Ford led the game in rushing over 116 carries, 106 yards, 3 catches, 25 yards, a touchdown as Nick Chubb went down. Steelers wide receiver George Pickens, career night for him, 4 catches, 127 yards, a touchdown on 10 targets. Amari Cooper for Cleveland also having 10 targets, 7 for 90 on those 10. Defensively, got to go with the two defensive touchdowns and the 2 guys that made the most impact in this game. Steelers linebacker Alex Highsmith, 7 tackles, 5 solos, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, 2 QB hits, 30-yard pick 6 to start the night scoring-wise. And, of course, I mentioned Steelers linebacker TJ Watt again, 4 tackles, 2 solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflection, 4 QB hits, and a 16-yard fumble return for a touchdown. That was forced by Highsmith, by the way. Steelers +2 win outright over 39. All right, we're going to start off with some XFL news and USFL news. Axios announced that the XFL and USFL are in talks right now to merge the 2 leagues together. Would be fascinating to see how that would occur if they keep all 8 of teams and expand to 16 and create one new league, or what they do, combining resources, TV contracts, etc. But that's all we have right now. We don't know what is going to happen. Details, hopefully we'll get those in the coming days. College football news. I have a couple injuries here, or one injury to start off. Colorado defensive back / wide receiver Travis Hunter. He is out for 3 weeks with his chest injury, injured in that Colorado State game, hit by Henry Blackburn, who, by the way, is receiving death threats. And as much as I disliked the Colorado performance, Deion's comments today about the death threats for Henry Blackburn are justified. And I mean, again, I wholeheartedly agree. It is a game, y'all. Like, you're not playing it for one, so you should have nothing to say about players like that. In the media, we say a lot of stuff about players, but to go that far is way too far. So hopefully Henry and his family are doing all right. There's absolutely never any reason to go that far with a game. So that is where I stand on that. Alabama head coach Nick Saban announcing quarterback Jalen Milroe is the starter once again going into this weekend. He has earned it, apparently, which I don't really understand how. How did he earn it after you benched him by losing to Texas, and then you played the other two quarterbacks against USF not playing Milroe? So he earned it by not playing. Makes a lot of sense, coach. But anyways, I agree with the decision. I thought they should have stuck with Jalen Milroe. I thought he was the best quarterback out of the three. He gives them the best option or the best chance to win with the combination of arm talent and rushing ability that he has. So should give Alabama a good chance anyways. And Michigan State is in the process of firing head coach Mel Tucker for cause. Tricky situation there. I believe they can, from the language that I have seen, is that they can fire him for cause, and for cause means anything that is detrimental to the university's image, is what I've heard. So definitely, I believe they will be able to fire him for cause. Of course, Mel Tucker's going to fight it, being $70 million on the table. We'll see if they settle. NFL news. Former Bengals wide receiver A.J. Green has officially retired as a Cincinnati Bengal. Played with the Bengals, drafted by the Bengals in 2011, played with them through 2020, and then with the Cardinals his last 2 years, 2021 and 2022. 158 regular season games, 144 career starts, 727 receptions, 10,514 yards, 70 touchdowns, 11 carries for 93 yards as well. In the playoffs, played and started in all 5 games, 18 receptions, 232 yards, 1 touchdown, 7-time Pro Bowler, 2-time second-team All-Pro. The Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, he is eyeing a potential Super Bowl return after having a new innovative surgery on his Achilles. The Super Bowl, consequently, is exactly 5 months to the day, February 11th, to the day Rodgers was injured last Monday night. And replacements for Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady was not an option for the Jets, they said. And he won't be an option for any team soon, as moving into October, his minority stake, once his minority stake in the Las Vegas Raiders is approved, he will no longer be able to play on a team. The NFL is currently reviewing Broncos safety Kareem Jackson's hit on tight end Logan Thomas that left him concussed. He will not be suspended for the hit, but he is subject to a fine. I thought he should have been ejected. It was a clear hit and launch to the head that left a player injured. He also was fined last week, So he's a repeat offender. And yeah, I would not have any qualms about suspending him for that hit on Thomas, even though the league said they're not going to suspend him right now. But yeah, I think it should have been an ejectable hit. And I didn't get to see the one in week 1, but definitely that one on Logan Thomas, I thought Jackson should have been gone for that. The Rams have had trade talks centered around running back Cam Akers, inactive this past week, killed my fantasy team. But yeah, hopefully they can get that situation resolved soon and find Akers a new home. The Pro Football Hall of Fame has announced its list of 173 modern era nominees. That includes 9 first-time, first ballot guys. Those 9 guys are wide receiver Brandon Marshall, wide receiver Jordy Nelson, tight end Antonio Gates, running back Jamal Charles, offensive lineman TJ Lang, offensive lineman Josh Sitton, offensive lineman Max Unger, defensive lineman Haloti Ngata, and defensive lineman Julius Peppers. So that list will be reduced to 25 semifinalists in November. Of the 9 first ballot guys, I think Julius Peppers definitely and Antonio Gates both get in. So that, I believe, would leave 3 other spots. I think the class in total is a max of 8. So you have your 3 seniors candidates, or you have your 2 seniors, coach contributor as well. And then if all 3 of those get in, then you have your up to 5, I believe, is the max modern era guys can get in. So I think Gates is definitely a lock. Peppers is more of a question mark, I think, but I think both those guys get in first ballot. IR moves. The Broncos, they placed tight end Greg Dulcich on IR. Steelers doing the same with wide receiver Deontay Johnson, and the Cardinals doing the same with safety Budda Baker. Injuries, a bunch of them. Raiders wide receiver Devontae Adams, he is in concussion protocol. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow, he tweaked his calf, so aggravated it again. We'll see how he feels going into this weekend. They don't play till Monday. Luckily, they are the second game Monday, so it gets even an extra hour. Or I guess it's the normal time is the second game on Monday. So, but yeah, we'll see how Joe does this week. Packers offensive lineman Elgton Jenkins, he has an MCL sprain. Commanders tight end Logan Thomas, mentioned him. He has a concussion. Giants running back Saquon Barkley, he is out 3 weeks, sprained ankle, just a normal ankle sprain. So 3 weeks for Saquon. Wouldn't be shocked if he comes back in a week because he's actually got a lot of time now. They have a short week with San Fran on Thursday, but then they don't play again until the next week. So they got a lot of time here, 2 weeks in the next 2 weeks. Lions pass rusher James Houston, he has a fractured ankle, out 6 to 8 weeks. They placed him on IR today. Eagles defensive back Avonte Maddox, he had surgery on his torn pec, probably going to be out for the season. I believe they placed him on IR the other day. Lions running back David Montgomery, he is day-to-day with a thigh bruise. Ravens wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. has an ankle injury. Haven't heard any update on that one. The Dolphins wide receiver Jalen Waddle, he is in concussion protocol. Lions defensive back CJ Gardner-Johnson, he is feared to have suffered a torn pec and probably out for the season as well. He was placed on IR today. Saints running back Jamal Williams, he has a hamstring. Head coach Dennis Allen said he's expected to need some time to recover. So I'm not sure how long he is going to be out there for New Orleans. Panthers losing linebacker Shaq Thompson for the season. Fractured fibula for him. Steelers safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, he has a chest contusion, held overnight at the hospital there in Pittsburgh for tests, but should be okay to go after that. And of course, the Browns last night losing running back Nick Chubb for the season, significant knee injury. Have not heard the extent of that knee injury yet. One release, the Cowboys cut running back Ronald Jones. Made a lot of sense to cut him now after his 2-game suspension was over. So he is free to sign with any team currently. The Vikings, Jimmy's Vikings getting a boost up front, signing Broncos guard Dalton Reisner, a 1-year, $4 million deal there. I guess that gets a cha-ching. It's not as big of a cha-ching as we usually get, but I'll give it to Reisner here today. And then the Eagles, they signed punter Braden Mann to the practice squad, released punter Aaron Sipos from the practice squad. Super happy about this. Aaron Sipos sucks, worst punter in the league, and so happy to finally have a punter that can hit the ball right. And Aaron Sipos probably is one of the bigger reasons why we lost the Super Bowl. A couple visits here. The 49ers hosted Saints corner Bradley Roby. And, of course, with Nick Chubb going down, the Browns hosted running back Kareem Hunt on a visit today. Would not be shocked if they sign him. That is the news. Let's go to the pig standings here. These are not 2022. This is from this year. And we are all in lockstep once again. We all hit last week on Thursday. It was the Eagles Vikings. So we all won that one. Good for us, right? 1-1 across the board. And we're all on the same page again on this Thursday. Giants at the 49ers. Niners getting 10 here at home. So big spread. Not shocked if they cover that. The Niners probably have the best defense in the league. And I don't think the Giants offense is going to be Giants defense is going to be able to stop them enough. So yeah, Niners win and win big, I think, on Thursday night. That is the show for today, y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Next Tuesday, we'll be back talking NFL Week 4. We'll have your game recaps and from the weekend, college football Week 4, NFL Week 3. And then, of course, we'll preview this Thursday night matchup, Lions at the Packers, which our guy Danny and I will be at next Thursday night. So super hyped to go to that one. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and X at FAA_bets on X as well. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, and X, as well as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and TikTok at Football Addicts Anon on there. Thank y'all for bearing with my cold, and we will see y'all back for Football Friday.